So I haven't been out here for a while. I had some family things to do, traveled to Oregon, and then it rained for like a week. And finally have a decent day, but I've only got the morning to do it. So I'm going to take another step in this, and I'm going to either complete or begin to hook up the water system. I'm going to make a little changes to the installation instructions because since I'm in the bucket bleachers, or what I call the bucket bleachers, I've got some routing difficulties and just some things I want to do a little bit differently. It's not going to change, how it functions. It's just going to, where I put valves and where I put components are going to be a little bit different than their pictures, but that's no big deal. And I'll show you what I've got in mind. So the first thing I have to do is make a place in these baskets for the water line to come up into it. There's a little cutout. Don't know if you can see that right up near the top up there that I need to just cut out. And it just says, clip them with scissors. And that doesn't really seem to be as easy as they seem to think it is. But it's going to work. And I've cut out the little hole right there. Can you see that? Maybe if I get myself out of the way. So that gives me the hole that I will be able to run this 1/4-inch tubing up into. Okay, so I've moved you so you can see down into the reservoir. You can see right now it's empty, except for the outlet for the system. And what I need to do is put this down in here. This is the water pump, and it just kind of sits at the bottom like that. There's also a bunch of valves and things like grommets and whatnot, and this grommet goes into this side for the power cord. So the power cord will just kind of plug in through there. And now I need about 10 inches of this stuff. This is the main water supply line, and it will plug into the pump is going to connect onto there. Where I'm going to deviate a little bit is this would normally be on the outside, and I'm going to put it on the inside. I want to make sure I know how this piece works. Yeah, it's kind of tight. So I'm going to put this in here. This is just a water shutoff. So that's going to go in there, and I'll plug this piece into there. Now I'm going to have to heat it up a little bit because this is actually a pretty good sized opening, and I've got my heat gun out here. So I'm going to heat that up a little bit, and then I'll come back and slide it on. So I've heated it up a little bit. It makes it a lot more pliable, but it's still not super easy to get on there. I want a good fit because it will be under pressure. And well, that'll work like that. So then I'll drop this into here. And now I need to get another piece of this that then comes out and will go into this distribution piece. And then there's also a cap that goes on the end. I think this is a part of, since they sell many different bucket styles, you may be able to get one that's got 6 or 8, or maybe they put 2 of these on it for additional ones. But I need to get a small piece of hose that goes between these two. So I'm going to make this about a 2-inch piece because I would need to be able to at least go like that and like that, right? So that I got enough hose on there. I probably need 2 inches. So I'm going to put a 2-inch piece or cut a 2-inch piece of this. So 2 inches. Okay, so I've heated this one up. Let me see if I can get it. Oh yeah, I got that one good and hot. So it slid on there well. Okay, so that's the end cap for this valve. Now I need to put this one on there, and then I'm going to heat this one up and get the same thing. Okay, so I've heated that one up. It's nice and pliable. Get it on there. Screw it on. All right, there's my distribution block. Now I need to connect it to the end of this with enough hose. I'm not sure how well you can see what I got going on this side. Maybe I'll see if I can adjust you a little bit. And then I'll have the main water line done, and I can run the individual lines to the buckets. So now I need about a foot of this stuff. This is going to go in here and into that valve that we put in a few moments ago. And then it's going to come down the side here, and I'll plug this into it. I'm going to heat this up so that I can put this on it. Be back in a moment. Okay. So that's going on there pretty well. If I can get this on there. Yep. Boy, heating it up makes an enormous difference. Now, I've got to do that to connect it to this through there. That takes a little bit more fiddling around because I've got to go through this. Into here. So I will get this thing ready to go. And I'll heat this one up and I'll be back in a moment. I realized as I was heating this up that I needed to put this pipe through before I put that clamp on, or I wasn't going to get it through the bucket. But fortunately I realized that. It's fighting me a little bit in here. All right. Oops. So now I need to get this into the right position and then put the grommet in. Hope you can see all that. And then this is going to kind of tuck down here. We're going to get a little bit more of it in. There we go. So let me get you off here for a moment. And you can see the pump down there comes up into this valve, which is currently on, goes through the bucket, and then down here to the distribution block. And then I'll run the smaller lines from all of these to each of the buckets to power the emitters. I have some of this left over, so in case I don't really like the way it turned out, I've got some that I can modify. And this tube is both the air hose and the supply, the water supply line for the emitters. So I'm not going to cut this off the bat. I'm going to kind of do it more like an electrician. Let's just start from the end and run material in, like wires and tubing and stuff like that. So I'll run this through here. I'll run it through this one. Now it's going to go up through that hole that we created when we trimmed stuff. And I probably want some kind of excess, but let's get this hooked up. I don't want to waste the tube, but that seems like that's probably good. Then these are kind of a, I don't know, are they a shark bite style? And you just basically plug them in and they're there. These will sit on top of the substrate that we put in there. But how is this for length? That's probably more than I need. That's probably good right there. And then I got to run this over here. And I get to cut some more. So this is the completed water system. The pump comes up, the water comes up this. There's a valve to shut it on and off. I'm really not sure why that's there. I probably could have done without that. Maybe I could have put it somewhere else. Then it flows out of here and into this little distribution block. And then each one of these lines goes out. We'll take this short one, goes into the bucket, and then comes up right here and connects to this T. So that when it's running, there's little emitters in this. I think I showed you those earlier. It will push water into the top of the media, which are clay balls that'll be sitting in there. And once I figured out what I wanted to do with the water system, it was pretty easy to do. This is the power, and it has to plug in over here. I kind of wish it was on the other side. Who knows, maybe I'll move it just so that it's not coming out the front. But this is what it looks like under here. Anyhow, that's the water system. With the water system done, it's time to get the air system connected and the rest of the electrical. There's a couple of electrical components, the air pump and the power supply for the water pump, that need to be protected from rain and water and things like that. Instructions don't give you a whole lot of thoughts on that. It'd be really nice if they were waterproof. There's probably a lot of different ways to do this. Maybe in the future they just all get put in a small tote or something and power run out of them, but since I've got the bucket bleachers here and all of the unique installations that I have to do, I've done a few things off camera. One of them was I put this box right here. This box wasn't there before, and I'll put the pump in it. It's got holes on the backside to allow the air lines to come out or go in, however you want to look at it, and go to each of the buckets. The power supply for the water pump, I think I mentioned it before. I had to create get a junction box and fit it and the power that will go to both pumps. This is really short. So I decided to go this route because I can mount it underneath the bucket, the reservoir bucket, so that it can reach. I didn't look. Probably would have been easier if I had looked for an extension for this 20-volt power supply, but that's not what I did. I hooked it up this way and added an extension cord to be able to power them both. So I need to put the power supplies in, get them all in their right spots, and then run the airline tubing. So that's what we'll do next. All right, I've set you up closer to the box. You can see the air holes. Maybe you can see the air holes right there that I'll run the lines out of. And I've got 2 fish, or put a cord through, because its exit is cut into the door that's on the other end. So with the cord out, this just fits in there like that. I will run the air hoses through the holes and into each of the outputs for the pump. It's pretty simple so far. All right, I've repositioned you. I can't really show you much of what I'm doing. It's kind of a difficult place to get to, but I'm going to just screw this down here so that the cord has the shortest run to the connector. This is very fiddly. I could really use 2 hands, or 2 more hands, or maybe 3 of my own to make that go in there. And then I got to put the other one in, since it'll be all lined up. There we go. So, just like that. Now we'll go over here. I really need a long Phillips screwdriver bit. And there we go. So if I come over here, give a little adjustment to you guys. And the box is down here. It's somewhat sheltered from the rain. I can just bring this up and plug it in right there. So now I need to, I'm not sure you can see that. I need to get the plug for the air pump into my little junction box. All right, so I got a cord right here. I don't know if you can see that. Got to plug this into it. Now everything should be, I won't say rain tight, but water won't necessarily be inclined to go in there. Get you a little look about what that looks like under there. So water will potentially run down the side of this, but it's not going to want to go back up in. Spiders will, but the water won't. I hope. That's the theory, at least. And on the other side, can you see how the power supply, nope. On the other side, you should be able to see how the power supply cord kind of pokes out to go up to the bucket. So this is the back of the box, and there's not a panel here. I didn't put it in yet because I needed to know how much cord was needed to reach over there so that I could put it in. I have this back panel that I built for it, and there's this little tiny notch. Can you see the little tiny notch? And that's where the cord's got to go out. And again, trying to control water from getting in. There we go. All right. So let me give you a tour. Cord comes out that little hole right there, goes over into the box, and then it supplies that, the air pump. And the air pump hoses will go out there. We'll do that next. All right, each line that comes out of the pump and goes to an individual bucket has a few components. There's this check valve. Can you see that? There's this check valve that only allows air to go one direction, so that if the pump shuts off, it doesn't siphon, or there's no risk or less risk of the water siphoning back into the pump and ruining it. There's an air stone, or what they call in the instructions a gas stone. I guess air is a gas, or it's made up of gases. It's really a fluid, isn't it? And then there's this grommet that goes in the bucket to keep it still and from not pulling back out. And then there's airline. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that my airline check valves are inside here. So I'll hook a short piece of hose to this, and then all of this will be contained in here, which will make it easier to get off. The air hose should come off this relatively easy because it doesn't have any barbs or anything. So if I need to pull it apart, it'll be a lot easier to do it that way. If that doesn't work out from a space standpoint, I'll probably do it real close on the other side. Wouldn't it be entertaining if I could just like stuff it through like that? But there's not enough there. I'd have to make the holes bigger, and I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna try it this way. If this doesn't work, then I'll do something different. I'll figure it out, or we will. I will start by cutting the short piece of hose and building the little check valve assembly, using scissors this time. See, short little hose. Need check valve. Make sure I know which direction it's supposed to blow or pass air. Do that. I'm gonna pull this out of here so it's a little easier for me to manipulate, and probably easier for you all to see too. Can you still see this? Let me lift you up a little bit. There, now you can see that better. And then I will shove that on like that. Rinse and repeat. There. Now if I put this back in here. Now let's put it this way. There, and I'll run out of here and I'll run to my buckets. That sounds like the next thing to do, doesn't it? Okay, I'm going to start with this bucket because you can see it. I'm going to get my, should have done this while between takes. All right. So I'm going to run this through this grommet. I'm going to try to run it through the grommet. Not sure how far down that needs to go. Let's stick it in here and see. Okay, that should do it. So how long is that? That's fairly long. That's like 14 inches or so. So this will go in here. And we'll put the stone on here. And now it's in the bottom. A little bit of water in there from rainfall, but that'll just kind of hang out down there and create bubbles. At least it's supposed to. Howdy. And then that's how that looks. Can you see that? Let's can you see that? How that's in there? What if I shine a little light on it? So shove that all the way back, and I have a nice little manifold, if you will. It's not really a manifold, but each one of them is a home run. So that's the air system hooked up. Woohoo!